Welcome to the live podcast with me, your host, Manuel. And in our last episode, we had Alma talk about her experience, her story, and how she was able to navigate her childhood abuse and became a strong woman who had raised her children to become successful children who had made her proud. And in our last episode, she talked about them being one of our biggest legacies in life. And Alma took us through the journey of her life and how she was able to pull through her marriage, her book writing, all that she's done. And today we're going to continue with Alma on her story and how she's been able to go further from all she had done. So once again, welcome Alma to the podcast today. It's good to have you back on the podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Welcome. Your story actually had triggered a lot of thoughts personally for me and for others who have listened to your story. And just in a way of, pushing it further to see how you've been able to strongly come out of this. And not just that, some women who may have gone through this might either lose their children to drug abuse, a lot of vices, but look at you, you have a well-bonded family. So we're going to just take it from there. As we proceed, we're going to pick out other things that would help other women out there who might be going through the same thing and be able to also answer some few questions. So
Sure.
in our previous episode, you talked about how you got back to England with your children and you were able to raise them on your own. You even got your own property, and I'm sure that was not an easy ride for you. Can
No,
you
it was
take us through the journey of how you were able to secure a job, been able to go through this, and able to even get your own property in England, in London for that matter? So that must be a big one. So you want to give us that story?
yeah, sure. Uh, as I said, when I came back, I was 8 months, just gone 8 months pregnant. So my focus was really on my child, getting ready to have my baby. My husband and I weren't divorced at the time, but we weren't together. He was still in parts of Africa while I was still in London. So he would help support the family financially, and I have a little bit of savings, and my mum as well was helping. So after I had my daughter, he sent me some money to find a property to rent, and that's what I did. So I moved into this 3-bedroom property with my children, and he would still be in contact with them, speaking to them on the phone. I would still be speaking to him. He still wanted the marriage. I was still saying I couldn't see a future for us because we're so far apart. We're so disconnected, really. But he was still willing to keep fighting. And after, I think it was my daughter's first birthday, he flew over. And when he came over, he was still talking about going back. I was still hearing the same talk that I've been hearing all my life. And I transitioned past that stage. I was no longer that person that was willing to just settle and accept what he was saying. So to keep the family together, I tried my best not to get into any arguments with him. So I wouldn't say much, or I would just say, not wanting to lie and say, oh, yes, yeah, I agree with you. But rather than getting into an argument in front of my children, I would just, I don't even know what to call it, make a vocalization. And he would only be around for maybe a week at the most. So after he went back, I decided that I definitely wanted to go ahead and get a divorce. So during that time, I was still working on some of my books and I'd put some of them on Amazon. So they were bringing in little money, not life-changing amounts, but enough that it was helping to sustain myself and my children. And once they settled into school, I ended up having to, because money wasn't coming in anymore, apply for income support, so government assistance. So that carried me through until I started to work temporary. I started to do temp work because I still had the baby at home, and my mum was the only one that would be able to babysit until she got to the age where she could go into nursery. But even when she went to nursery, it was only part time, 15 hours a week. So it meant I couldn't work the times that I wanted to. I couldn't work full time. So I would only do agency work, and I was doing secretarial work. I worked for a private bank in the city for maybe about a month at the time on contract. Then that ended, and then I would do secretarial work for London Rail or other agencies that I was signed with a few agencies. So whichever came through with jobs, I would do them. So mummy was babysitting most of the time. And when she got into nursery full time now, it meant that I could either go and retrain to do something else because I didn't really want to be a secretary. I couldn't see myself doing that all the time. It was so boring for me. So I started to do, I was learning about business administration. So I did a course in business administration. I knew I wanted to go into business, but I needed to have some knowledge before I could even think about going that route. So I did a level 2 in that. And then after that, that's what got me into cybersecurity. I was always interested in computers. My husband at the time wasn't sending any money at all to help maintain the children because according to him, he didn't have it. His business wasn't doing so well. So that was one of the main reasons why I ended up having to go on income support. So between part-time jobs whenever I got them and getting help with benefits that I was studying in between. Once my son and my daughter got old enough, I went full-time to work now because she was in school. So I could afford to take a job with, well, normal hours, 9 to 5 hours, and pay for after school care. So that's what I did. And that was how I was able to support us. And then obviously from there, from work, after uni, back into full-time work because now she's in school. She's a lot older, but that was what I had to do.
Take us through the journey of how you got your first house, your property. How did you do it?
The rental property, I could being a single mum at the time and not really having much of a work reference because I'd not long come back from Cameroon with my children and I'd given birth. A lot of it was really down to based on the psychological impact it was having on us and my children being stuck in my mum's house. So I can't quite remember the lady that helped me, but she was really intrinsic in helping women or young single mums, with whatever support they needed. And housing was my own because I was clashing with my mum. Mummy was clashing with the children. The children were hating staying there. So it got to the stage where everybody was feeling my mum's health wasn't getting any better. So all of us were being affected. So got the deposit together and she found me the property. And that was it, put the deposit down and I was able to move in. So after I moved into that property, we were there for about a year and a half or 2 years or so. And then the landlord came and said that he needed his property back. That's when one of the first booms started to affect the housing market and people were losing property left, right, and center. And this landlord had several properties and I got on very well with him. He was quite cool with me. So he would tell me, oh, that he had to sell this property or he had a problem with that rent or that tenant, blah, blah, blah. And then, yeah, he gave us the Section 21. I didn't have the money to rent another property. So I had to go to the council and give the documents to them. And because I had such a good relationship with the landlord, I wanted to maintain that because you never know what the future holds. It could be somewhere where I need to go back and rent a property. And that could have been a good connect to have. But because the way the process works, you have to literally stay in that property until the last minute, to the point where a bailiff is practically coming to kick you out. So that destroyed the relationship that I had built with this landlord. Now he probably saw me as his enemy. Like, why are you squatting in my property? Even though he understood that it was the way the council worked. So we stayed there and then we moved into a popular hotel in Croydon where they put a lot of people that are going homeless or have been evicted from properties or whatever. So we ended up staying there and it was a nightmare. I was terrified. People were fighting all the time, all kind of hours of the night. I wouldn't let my children go out to play. If we went out, we were leaving completely out of the area and going. And I was there for about 2 months, 2, 3 months, and it was only a two-bedroom and I had 4 children at the time. And it was just crazy. We didn't have a front room or anything. It was 2 bedrooms and a kitchenette and then your toilet, shower. So imagine the children getting on top of each other, fighting all the time. And then I ended up writing to a lawyer because I kept chasing them, saying, when are we going to move? Can you put us in a bigger property? It's not safe. We don't feel safe here. And, they knew about some of the contention that was happening with other tenants in the area. There was drug abuse going on, fighting, and it was just crazy. It was like EastEnders on steroids. So I wrote to a lawyer that I found some information from just researching in Clapham, and they managed to get me out of there with the children. And then we moved to another rental property. We were there temporarily for about 3, 4 months or so until they moved me to this property here. And when we moved here, they basically gave me 3 days. Said, you've got 3 days to move. Thankfully, I had a car. If I didn't have my car, I don't know what I would have done. And when they moved me here, I sat outside and I cried because it's it's so much further than where my mum was. And at the time, I was one of her caregivers, myself and my younger brother. We were caring for her because obviously dementia, old age, and all of those things had taken her down, really, really taken her down. So we were caring for her. And I looked outside and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm in the sticks. I'm far away from all my support system. How can they put me out here by myself? And then I had a fear of living on an estate or flats or somewhere where there's loads of flats around me because, everything we'd seen on TV was projection on delinquency, drug abuse, and then coming from that place where we were staying last with the fighting, I was just like, oh no, and I've got to stay here permanently. We're not going to make it. That's what that's what my mind was. I sat outside and I cried. I said, God, why did you do this to me? What did I do in a previous life to deserve this? And then he just said to me after I sat there, God, why are you crying? What's wrong with you? You can drive, you can go anywhere. You know this area. You've been here before. And Croydon is only there, London is only there. What's your problem? Why are you complaining? So when we came into the property now, obviously 3 bedrooms, so it's enough space. The 2 boys would share, the 2 girls would share, and I have my own room. And then we have a living room and a decent sized kitchen. And the only thing is there was no cooker, there was no carpets on the floor. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've got this young baby and you people are moving me into this place with no facility. How am I gonna feed my children? And I thought it was a setup. That's where my mindset was. Oh, so they're setting up to come and take my children away from me now. They want to say I'm an unfit mum because I don't have a cooker and I don't have coffee and I don't have this. It was crazy. But we made it work. We made it work, between my mum going there, storing food. I would go to my mum's and we just cook and eat there and then just come here and sleep and shower and then back again. And that was what we did. And then obviously my children were at school. I hadn't changed their schools yet. So that meant I had to travel to take them to school. I wasn't even sure I was going to be staying here because, like I said, I'm in the sticks, no support system, no necessities in this property. I couldn't see us staying here and making this into a home. But once I started to get the furniture in and that same lady helped me put some stuff in here, put the carpet down. My mum helped me with finances to do the flooring and so did my brother. I realized that we could make this into a decent home and there wasn't any delinquency. There wasn't any children running around outside. Even to this day, when you come around here, you will not think there are children in this area because they're not running up and down. There's no delinquency. It's just peaceful and quiet. And now that I remember sitting back about 2 years after, just before I went to uni in 2014, and I thought, do you know what? You're ungrateful because look where you are. That's when I started to realize, okay, I need to change this mindset and go back to having that positive mindset because I'm thinking the worst because of one experience that I had, in one place. I'm thinking it's coming to follow me here as well. And I realized this is the best place because I was so scared that my children would meet with the wrong group of kids and be influenced by them and do all the crap that they're telling me that some of their so-called schoolmates and friends are doing. And that was my biggest fear. So once I settled in here and I realized it was peaceful and quiet, I was happy and so were they. I saw how calm they were. They weren't nervous or erratic and fighting each other. They were sharing with each other. This is how I wanted them to be. Go back to the beat, nice, kind, sharing, caring, siblings. So that was that for me. And I've been here since. I've been here since. So, and it's a nice area. It's peaceful. It's pretty safe. The amount of times these children have left their keys in the front door, I keep telling them, guys, this stop doing this, because if this was somewhere else, you wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
get away with it.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful. I'm grateful. But when you're going through things, you can't see this. You cannot see the outcome. You cannot see the end because you're so caught up in your pain, your immediate pain. It doesn't allow you to project into the future what could possibly happen. So that was my story there. Yeah.
Yeah. So can you recall in any time in your life where the past was rushing to you and you felt like giving up? Was there any time like that when,
Yeah, absolutely.
and what did
Well,
you do?
yeah, after we were made homeless, and we were living in that hotel. I woke up one day and just said, I want to end it. I couldn't see a future because I'm in this horrible space. I don't have the funds. My husband isn't the kind of, supportive parent I would have liked. He's not even making contact with the children. He's denying his behavior when they like, question him. And I just thought, and my mum wasn't really, really supportive in the sense that she didn't defend me in any way. You know what I mean? And I just thought, what's the point? And my children were complaining. They were unhappy. They didn't have this. They didn't have that because they were so used to having whatever they wanted. They're so used to having their own rooms, their own swimming room, their own, swimming pool. They're used to having playrooms where,
Hmm.
they could just have their friends and make the most noise and food and unlimited this and whatever gadget they had and designer this. They were used to that. So now having nothing. So for them, it was just like, and it made me feel like I failed. So I remember waking up one morning thinking, these children would be better off without me. I'm not. I'm not going to make their life any better because I couldn't see the future. I was so stuck in my pain. And I sat there and I planned it in my head exactly what I was going to do. And I called my oldest daughter. I said, you and your brother, you and Kareem have to look after the younger children. You have to look after Kimara and Karis because they were the two youngest at the time. I said, because I'm no good for you guys. I can't give you the life that you're used to or give you a better life. And I'm sorry I failed you. And I was in tears. I was crying because I was so down. I was so down. And I sat there and I remember my daughter said, Mum, what are you going to do? And I told her, because I've always been straight with my children because I wasn't given that privilege when I was younger. I've gone the total opposite of my mum. So I don't hide anything. My children ask me something. If they're very young, I make it age appropriate. But now that they're adults, if they ask me something, I don't lie to them. I never have. I just tell them straight. So when they ask me what my methods were, I would tell them straight what I was going to do. And
What was it were you planning to do then?
I was planning to slit my wrists and sit in the bath. I saw it, and I was so at peace with it. That was the worst. That was what scared them the most because I was so at peace with it. I'd cried so much for days and days and days that I didn't have any more tears left and I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And that was the only thing. Not even the baby could keep me here because I just thought she would have a better life without me. That's all I kept thinking. They would all have a better life without me. But they couldn't really because nobody could raise them like I did. But I wasn't in that mind space. I couldn't see that. So I planned sit in that bath, cut my wrists, and just float away. And then I remember my son saying to me, Mum, if you kill yourself, I'm going to kill myself. And that hit me hard in my heart. That really kicked that was the thing that was the slap I needed. And he was crying. And this was I think he'd just gone to he was in his first year at college. And my son is that child that when he says he's gonna do something, he's gonna do it. And I thought, wow, you're gonna ruin this child's life. This is not what you had them for. This wasn't a part of your plan. what are you doing? Even though I was feeling sorry for myself and still feeling certain that this is where I was going, there was something inside of me that kept saying, but these children didn't ask to come. You wanted them. You wanted these children. Now you're going to put the burden on them. You're going to ruin their life. The very thing you said you don't want. You're going to destroy their lives. It might not be in the way that yours was, but you're doing it in another way and it's still abuse. And that's when I realized, you're not different from your mum, you know. You really think you're different, but you're not. Because look what you're talking about. Look what you're doing. Look what you're even thinking. And then he said some other things to me and made me make a promise. And I think when I said yes to that promise, I didn't have a choice but to go forward with that. I can't remember what he said, but he's got away with words that made me feel, I didn't feel like a bad mum. I just felt, you're being selfish. You're not even thinking about their future and what's going to happen to them and how much you're going to impact their lives 10, 15, 20 years now going into their adult life. Because suicide, when, you know, people think suicide is a selfish act, is a way out. For some people, it isn't. There's just, when they just see no light at the end of the tunnel and nothing makes sense. So I have a lot of sympathy for people who take that route, and I don't judge anybody because I'm not walking in their shoes. But when I sat and thought about what kind of a man is my son going to be? What kind of woman are my daughters going to be if I check out? And when I sat back and I thought, gosh, how would I feel? I know how it feels to lose, because as much as it might be insignificant to people, I've lost pets that made me feel guilty, made me feel so bad because I was there. I was raising that pet. I made a promise to take care of that pet and I failed them. And I thought, gosh, if I could feel bad like that for pets, how would my children feel knowing my mum checked out? She didn't stick around for me. We weren't good enough for her to stick around. She didn't love us enough to stay around. She didn't fight for us. Those were the thoughts that was coming through my mind. And I thought, I can't do this to my children. I've got to figure out. And then, I don't know. I think I was numb, to be honest. I was just numb. I wasn't feeling anything. I wasn't thinking anything. I just know that I did not come here to fail my children or to give them a horrible experience or a horrible life that's going to traumatize them and mess them up for the rest of their life. And I just thought, I've got to just figure out something. I've got to find a way to do something, you know? And the funny thing is, not long after feeling that way, they called me and told me I had to move. In as in that same, I don't even know, quagmire that I was in of feeling depressed, feeling worthless, feeling that my life has no meaning. These people called me and told me that I needed to move. I think it was 4 days. They called me on the Monday, told me I had to move out by the Thursday. And I was like, move out where? How? I don't have the money. I don't have car. I don't have van. How am I going to move my furniture? Blah, blah, blah. So it took me somewhere totally different now. My fear and my worries became something real. Because now I've been given this deadline that I need to move out of this place by this certain time, or they're going to throw my stuff out on the street. And my children are going to sit here and watch their mum and their stuff be thrown out on the side of the street. So what choice do I have? I've got to start thinking differently. So now it kind of took me, I guess in a way it was a relief, because now instead of me feeling like I'm hopeless and I'm stuck in this horrible situation and this horrible place, we're getting out of here. So that was the light that started the journey. So when I moved into this property now, I told you we moved in here in January. By September 2014, I was on my way to uni. I'd registered and signed up for uni because I know I needed to upgrade my skills. I was a stay-at-home wife and mum for God knows how many years. I didn't invest in myself. I didn't do anything major that could propel me forward. And when I decided I was going to get into business with my husband, things didn't turn out. And I ended up losing, having to come back to England. So here I am starting all over again. So that was it for me. And then once I knew I was going to uni, I knew things was going to get better. I just needed to get through that course and prove to myself that I could do it. And once I proved to myself that I could do it, that was it for me. It's like I got my wings.
Wow. Wow. That's the thought of being suicidal is what caught my attention. When you were sharing your story, it looks as if everything was rosy until this point.
Yeah.
And I'm
No.
sure somebody who is listening to you right now
Yeah.
could have been waiting for this time. Somebody who might have been at that point in their life where they want
Yeah.
to give up,
Yeah.
where they want to give up. And for you, it was your son that made you to rethink and come back to your senses.
Yeah.
And that's so powerful.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. And looking at your journey, would you say, apart from your children, what was the strong thing that kept pushing you? I know your children were there. You wanted to break those vicious cycle, but what
Yeah.
else was it that was keeping you moving, especially after the suicidal attempt that you
Yeah.
intended to do?
Just the will to show my children that they can be whatever they want to be. That was the biggest thing. And to prove that I'm going to show you that my children are going to be better than you thought they could be, that they're not going to get caught up in drugs, whatever delinquent crap you said that they were going to get involved in. It was a lot of it proving a point to their dad. That was my biggest thing. That was my motivation. Okay, you said my children are going to be this. Okay, I'm going to show you. That was it. And I didn't have it easy with my son. His first year at uni and doing law, he decided he didn't want to do law anymore. And I said, okay, at least when you have your law degree, if you don't want to practice law, you have your degree. You don't know where the world is going. You could just go somewhere else and set your practice up. You have your degree. You're not quitting. Because we argued, and he was 18. I don't care if you're an adult, you're my child. I'm telling you, you're not quitting. You're doing it. So when my time came and I was struggling my first year at uni, he was telling me the same thing. And I'm saying, yeah, I'm frustrated. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to cuss and I'm going to frustrate and I'm going to this. But I'm not going to give up because we don't quit. And I can't quit because they're watching me. So I can't be telling him, okay, you can't quit law. And then I'm quitting my first year because it's too hard, you know? And he stuck it out, got his degree, and then went on to do his master's in law. So once he did that, I was just like, boop. So, and he's got his siblings watching him. So that was another thing. I would tell the two of them, the two oldest one, you know, you got 3 siblings behind watching you. You cannot fail. My daughter went on and she did her building surveying course. And I was very proud of her. I told her, you have to do something. I fought with my middle son, my second son, to go to uni. And he was not interested in going to uni. He said, Mum, I don't want to go to uni. He's always been the creative child. He was the slowest to read at 5. Everybody else was reading fluently at 3, could do their count to 100, ABCs, spell, all of that. They were just like, especially the first 2, because I just poured into them. So when it came to him not reading, my friend who was a teacher that would tutor them, she said to me, you know what? Not every child is academic. That's when I started to really stop putting them in the same basket and expecting everybody to follow the same kind of line and blueprint, and accepted that they're all individuals and they have different skills and different talents. Is when she said to me, he might not be an academic child. He might just be a creative child. And he was. I saw that, but I was still pushing him because my husband was pushing them. So I was also pushing them. And you know, African people and Caribbean people, it's all about education, education, education. That's the thing. So after I realized that he wasn't going to be the one to read fast, I kind of backed off. I said, okay, Karis, you're creative. You've always been creative, blah, blah, blah. So when he said that he didn't want to go to college, we argued in here. Me and his older brother sat down and said, well, since you don't want to go to uni and you don't want to go to college, you have to work. I said, because you can't sit here and do nothing. We don't support someone just sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, I want to fix computers. And he would pressure me to buy him boxes and do this. And I just, Karis, you don't really want to do this. You've never told us that you want to do this. This is just some whim thing. And I bought him books. He wasn't reading the books. So that told me that he wasn't really, really serious. And he was complaining all the time, walking around moody. And I just couldn't take the negative energy. So myself and Kareem sat him down and they said, okay, since you don't want to work and you don't want to go to uni, you can't stay here. So I'm thinking I'm calling his bluff to try to try and prompt him, right? So he got the application form, filled it out, and got in. Now I'm happy thinking, okay, he's going to go to college. Good. Then from there he will go to uni. He turns it down and says he's only doing it because we're putting pressure on him. So I came back with the same argument. You cannot stay here because we don't support loafers, right? You either got to go uni, go get a job. He didn't want to get a job. So I said, well, how do you expect to get money? I said, what do you think? We're going to be supporting you? You're 18, 19 years old. He decided he's going to move out. So I said, where are you going to go now? So he's going to go stay at his sister's boyfriend's house. That's where he's going to go and live. And he did. He packed his stuff off and his things and went. And he wasn't talking to us. He didn't talk to us for like about a year. And I felt bad because I've always been close with all of my children. And I never envisioned for 1 minute that I would not be speaking to any of them. But he decided that was what he was going to do. Anyway, it was good for him because I think he learned about himself. He got into modeling. He modeled for really good fashion houses, Vogue and top designers. And he probably did that for about a year. And then after he came back home, when he came back home, he told me he slept on the street. I said, you know what? If I knew you slept on the street, I would have come there with a belt and whooped you because you have a home. Why are you sitting on the street talking about you're homeless? I said, you're not meant for the streets. What's wrong with you? And then he went to his sister's house. So yeah, that was it. And then he told us that he was into rapping. We laughed our heads off because this is a child that used to just listen to instrumentals.
Yeah.
It's not like music with lyrics, was not into rap. So when he told us that he was going to be a rapper, we didn't take him seriously. We thought he was playing because he's a joker. He does mess about a lot. And then he got into rapping. And when I first heard him, I just couldn't believe it was him. I said, what? I said, your voice is perfect for this. Perfect. And that's what he's been doing. He's been doing that since, 19. He's 25 now. And he's still doing it. Consistent. I look up to that because a lot of people would have given up because they expect overnight fame and they expect to blow up just like that. But he's still going. And I keep telling, there's days he gets down and he feels like he wants to quit. And I keep telling him, remember, the moment you feel like you want to give up, that's when you're at the precipice of your success. So don't give up. You just maybe take a break, relax, take some time out, but you have to get back on it. You can't just stop because if you stop 6 months from now, you're going to be beating yourself up thinking, oh, if I'd still carried on, I could have been blah, blah, blah. I could have been here. I don't want them to live with regret. And that's one thing I always said. I saw my mum live with regret and I didn't want that for me, let alone my children. I saw the pain and the hurt that it caused her. So they're my biggest motivation, if I'm honest, to see that they've gotten to a stage where I'm proud to say none of them have been to jail. None of them have been in mess with the law. And none of them have done anything illegal and that they are good people. If I didn't have that, and I said this to my daughter the other day, if your brothers weren't so upstanding as they were, I probably would hate men. And that's the truth because of the experience that I've had and the experiences that I hear other women speak about. It'd be so easy to hate men. But because my sons they're not perfect, but they're not the kind of people that I hear people talk about. It gives me some kind of hope for the next generations coming up because whatever I've taught him, he will also pass down to his children when the time comes and he has them. And these are the kind of friends that he's surrounded with. And these are the friends he's had since we came back here, since he was 16, 15, 16 going to school. His first friends, they're still friends to this day. He's 31 now. So I'm happy to see that consistency. And that's one of the things that I never really, really had. And I would be jumping from one thing because there's so many things I want to do. I would start one thing and not finish it, then go to the next and not finish it. And then it took me time to sit down and say, okay, You got to discipline yourself to either have the courage to put something down that you can't manage and just focus on one thing, or find the strength and the time to work all of these things if you're still going to be doing that. Stop jumping, jumping, jumping. So that's what I do now. I'm so busy because I do have all these other things going. And when things come to me, like with the cybersecurity course, because I've already got the level 2, when I saw the level 3 come up, it was just like the doors were knocking saying, hey, look, this is part of your journey. You've got to finish this. You've got to do this. So it's also me challenging myself, pushing myself to see how much how much further I can stretch myself without breaking, you know?
That's interesting. So Amma, looking at how you've been able to raise these children,
Yeah.
looking at the examples you have set for them, what have you done in the past to these people who let you down? Are you doing anything in a way of mending the fence with them, forgiving, letting go? What strategy are you using to heal completely from the past, not to allow that trauma to slip over into your new version?
First, I had to forgive because forgiveness is for me. It frees me. I can't predict how they will appreciate or accept anything. Um, I don't have a relationship with any of my husbands from my husband's side at all, because he's not very consistent with communication. And I've given him many opportunities to communicate with his youngest child because the other 4 are adults, well, the other 3, because my first daughter is not his child. So the older 3 children are mature now and they have their own relationship with them. But again, because he's so inconsistent and he doesn't talk straight with them, they don't have the confidence to have a relationship with him anymore. They've tried, and I have seen they've tried. And my youngest daughter said that I think a lot of it's based on the fact that he's never really been there in her life. She doesn't feel she needs a dad. At first, I thought she was saying that out of trauma, and she showed me that she just doesn't want to have a relationship with him because I think if he was consistent and he was honest about his part in the demise of the marriage and some of the things that went on with the children, they'd be easy to accept him and be open to him. But because he's still spinning stories and blaming me for the breakdown of the marriage, even though I did everything, I stayed with this man for 17 years. If he was honest about his part in it and say, you know what, please forgive me, I did the same to my children. I'm sorry I wasn't there to protect you. My oldest daughter was sexually abused by his brother, who was younger. We didn't know about it. I think she was probably about 9 or at the time. And she didn't tell me till she was 16 because she was so scared I would tell him, which I would have done because we would have had an argument and a fight about it. Because you're not going to abuse my child and I'm going to sit there and keep my mouth closed. I can't do it because I've been there. And even though my mum didn't say anything to the men when, she would have her friends come to the house, I guess they were interested in her, but because she was a Christian and believed that if you're divorced, you couldn't remarry. She didn't get involved with anybody, but she would ask me to walk them down. Like you make your children take your auntie and your uncle, show them to the door type of thing, not knowing that they have, dark intentions. So they would touch me or try to kiss me and things like that. And I'm a young girl. And it got to the point where I was so creeped out, I had to tell my mum. But that's one good thing with my mum, whenever I did tell her apart from the stuff that had gone on before when I was in Jamaica, I don't think she knew how to handle that and she couldn't do anything about it. So she kind of blocked it. But these people that was coming to the house and were trying to be involved with me, once I told her what was going on, she definitely stopped it. Do you understand? So I think that's part of the reason why I still had a lot of love and respect for my mum, because after I told her about some of her friends' behaviors towards me, she would either not have anything to do with them or just completely block them. So for me, forgiving my mum, I guess really when I look up the fact that she was still there for me, even though when I was married and going through the problems, she would, when my husband had a habit of hitting my son in his head when he didn't like what he did. And that used to, my mom would go nuts because as far as she's concerned, you're going to give my grandson brain damage.
Yeah.
So she would get very, very upset. So once she started to see things for herself. That's when she started to defend me a little bit more. It didn't stop her still saying, "Oh, your mouth is is the reason why you get into arguments and stuff." But yeah, certain things she will just not sit by and allow him to just do in front of her. And I forgave my mum a long time ago because I just believe her traumas were just passed down to me because you can't. I just feel like if you were loved as a child, it would just it'd be something you
Easier.
just give back.
Yeah.
But I think if you weren't shown love or you were abused or you were taught that this is normal for your husband to beat you, and some of their religion does tell them your husband can beat you and all this nonsense. I think if my mum had the education, she always said it. If I knew then what I know now, I would do things differently. So I always believe she would have. And she definitely was a big champion of spoiling my children and going against some of the things that I would say. Like, Mum, don't give them sweets. We don't give them sweets. She would go out of her way to give them sweets. So I think she tried to make up with her grandchildren what she couldn't give me and my brothers. So I forgave her. I forgave my husband a long time ago because I feel like he is so traumatized that he can't see past his trauma. And he has a pattern where he's making the same mistakes over and over and over till to this day. I feel like he's trapped in a loop that he can't even get himself out of because he's so unaware of his own self and his own actions. So I have to forgive them because I don't believe that they're doing it intentionally. I think it's just part of the programming, but lacking the knowledge and awareness, self-awareness to try to fix it, you know? And not just that, I feel like if I don't forgive, all it's going to do is make me angry. It's going to make me a miserable person. It's going to make me unhappy because I'm carrying resentment. And it's kind of pointless because the damage is already done. They can't take back what was done to me and, reverse the things that's happened. So the only thing I could do is move forward and just even if it means not having anything to do with them, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. So that's part of my healing, just blocking and cutting off and just moving forward.
So where does this place your birth mom? Where does it place your birth mom? Have you had contact with her before then or now? Is she still alive? Where does it place her in the picture?
I did try to make contact with my birth mum, but I think she either hasn't healed herself. I think I told you, or I didn't mention it in this podcast, that before myself, I had two sisters that died in a tragic fire. And she got rid of every single thing relating to them, pictures, clothes, as if they didn't exist. And I guess that's probably her way of dealing with the trauma. So I did reach out to her. I did write her a couple of letters back in the late 90s before the internet was around to say, I'm not looking for anything. I would just like to get to know you, to see how you are, to know if I've got family members, siblings. It's nice to know where you come from. You want to know your history. And yeah, at the time, I was really trying to figure out where the eczema came from on my middle daughter because it was so bad. And she was the only one that had it. My oldest daughter didn't, and my sons didn't. So how is it that she's the only one with this horrible, affliction? So that was one of the main reasons why I reached out to try and get my family history. She didn't respond, and I thought maybe I didn't have the right address. So I sent another letter, still didn't get any response. And I did some more digging and found my dad's side and decided to write to them just in case I didn't have the right address for her. And I think about 2 months or 3 months later, I got a letter back from one of my aunties. And she basically introduced herself and said who she was and said she wanted to contact me. So she asked me for my phone number. So I sent her my phone number and she called me and we spoke. And she told me that's where I got some of the information from about my mum having an affair with her brother's, with her husband's brother while he was away. And my auntie was the one that said that she thinks I'm her brother's child rather than, her two
Yeah.
brothers. There's
Yeah.
one older one and one younger one.
Yeah.
The younger one was my mum's husband. The older one now is the brother that she had feelings for,
Mm,
possibly had in a relationship with.
yeah.
Um, so I ended up meeting with them, and she said, "Yes, I can see that you're one of my family members. We've got the same nose." This was the biggest giveaway, the nose. Every one of us, and I met my siblings. I met my older brother and my older sister. So in total, there would have been 5 children had the 2 girls survived, and all the same height, all the same hair texture, the same skin tone, and the same nose. It was crazy. It was just like looking at a version of myself. It was really strange. And we were in contact for a while until I moved to Spain, and I was still in contact with my aunt for a little bit. Before I left, she wanted me to meet the brother, but he was sick and in hospital. Excuse me. And sadly was transitioning for, I don't know if it was some form of illness or what was the cause. So really by the time I got in touch with them, he was basically on his way out. So I didn't get to meet him. And I think maybe about a month or two during the burial and the grieving, we decided to meet up, and she wanted me to meet my dad. When I got to the house, he took one look at me and he said I couldn't be his child because he wouldn't have abandoned his child. And my auntie's trying to explain to him that it's not about that. If you don't know, you cannot abandon a child you don't know anything
Yeah.
about.
No. Yeah.
And he was really, really upset. And she was saying, look at her. She looked like one of us, the same this, the same that. And he was like, no, no, she can't be my child. I would never abandon my child. I would never. That's how he was carrying on. And I said, Auntie, I need to leave because I didn't intend to come here and upset anyone. That wasn't why I came here. I just wanted to meet you guys. I'm grateful that I met you. I met my other auntie. I met some of the cousins, but I'm seeing that he's really, really upset. And I was kind of getting a bit nervous because I don't know if he's going to flip out on me and attack me because here I am, this girl turning up saying she's his child and he doesn't know anything about her. So we left, and I stayed in contact with my aunts. We met up a few times and hung out. And yeah, shortly after that, I moved to Spain and I lost contact with them. When I did come back, I tried to find them on Facebook. I found my cousin, but for some reason, it's like he wasn't active on Facebook at the time. They had drug issues. So I don't know if he's still around. I don't know if the mum's still alive. At one point, my husband and I went to the address that I wrote to, which isn't that far from me, maybe an hour's drive. But I was too scared to go and knock on the door because I wasn't sure how this person would react seeing me.
Yeah.
So he said he knocked on the door and he saw like a short Indian woman, and he said, "I think that's your mom because I could see the resemblance." And he asked her if he said, "Are you blah blah blah?" And she denied it. And I think he tried to talk to her for a little bit, and she was just like, "I don't know who you're talking about. You've got the wrong address." And she kept repeating that. So he left. And he wanted us to go back again another day. And I said, no. I said, I don't need to do that anymore. I said, I'm an adult now. I'm married with my own family, and she's still kind of feeling this way. Just let it go. Leave it alone. So yeah, that's it.
So lately, you started publishing your story on TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah.
What made you do that? Why are you doing that? What's the motive behind that move?
I think for me, starting Elite Women, everybody has a story. And for me, I would gravitate to someone if I know their foundations rather than just glamorous, the glamorous version that I'm seeing right now. I need to know Not necessarily no, but I appreciate you sharing the struggles and where you've come from because then I can relate to you. You become more human to me. So that was a motivation for me. And I thought there might be other women out there who's gone through the same thing as me. And sometimes you feel like you're the only one that's gone through your trauma until you start to speak up and realize that there are other people out there who have experienced similar things, if not same things that you as you at different times, perhaps, or with different variations. So that was one of the motivation. And I thought it will show my story of how I got from that person to becoming the elite woman that I am today. And that was the main motivation for me.
And
Yeah.
so since you started sharing that story, what has been the outcome of the story? What is it like for people out there who listen to that story? What
A lot of
feedback have you gotten so far?
Yeah, people are like, wow, I can't believe you've gone through that. I didn't know you went through that. Especially friends that have known me for a long time. They're shocked to know that I've gone through that. Some remember bits that I've told them and still say how brave I am, how strong I am. Some of them are scared and, oh, you're very brave to put it out there. Are you not scared of being judged? And I'm like, no, if I'm not at peace with my story, I can't share it. If I'm
Yeah.
still traumatized or still holding trauma, I won't be able to share it. So because I've gone through the trauma now, it's easy for me to speak about it because it's not holding me prisoner anymore. And I think when you've healed and you have gone through things, you're able to put your story out there without it making you feel like that person that you were at a time of the trauma? Mm. So feedback has been good because, people want the real today. They
Yeah.
want authenticity. They want to
Yeah.
see and know somebody has been through some things and they can relate to that person. So I
Yeah.
think once people can see themselves in you, it makes you more relatable and you more real and you more personable. Yeah.
So what bigger picture do you see with sharing that story? What's the bigger picture for you?
To encourage other women to speak, to share their stories as part of their healing, if that's what they want to do. And also to let people know that, yeah, you can go through some stuff, but you can also, come out the other end and be a better version of yourself, be successful, be happy in your life, attract the partner that you want, have the money that you want, and live the life that you really want, that you envision for yourself. That's the ultimate outcome.
So are you looking at having something like an organized program where you have women who you could do something like coaching with them, mentoring with them? Are you doing something in that nature with your story?
Yes, yes.
So you want to tell us about that? What are you doing with
Yeah.
that?
Yes, I have a coaching program where I start with women who are at a certain stage in their life where they no longer want to be held back by the things that have been, plaguing their minds, whether it's trauma, whether it's bad relationships, whether it's making decisions to immigrate. I had a sister the other day, she wants to move, but she's scared. She's scared to be the only person in her organization, moving to a foreign country where she doesn't even speak the language and she's got young children. She's worried about the impact it will have on her children. And because I moved to Spain when my children were relatively young, she's inspired by my story. So I'm able to help her, not tell her what to do, but to help her, put into place things, not only, for her own mental health, but also to back her children up and have options that if it doesn't work out there and the children are not happy, she still can come back home and still carry on with her life. I also had another young lady that reached out to me. She's just come out of a negative relationship, but because she hasn't completely cut ties with her ex-partner, she's basically being used as a soundbite, a sounding bar for him, where he'll come and trauma dump on her, whether it's to make her jealous or he's really just trying to offload onto her. I'm I'm encouraging her to realize that since he wanted the end of the relationship and you willingly wanted to work on it, but he didn't give you that option, you have to cut ties. You got to save yourself and not be someone's sounding board because all they're doing is using you to dump their own traumas and their own issues onto you as if you're their mother. You're not that person's mother. That's an adult. You have to break that that bond that you have with that person and start healing so that when if they do come running to you, you don't feel vulnerable. And because I've been there where I just didn't feel like I could say no. I wanted to say no, but I was so scared. I didn't want to hurt anyone's
Yeah.
feelings, so that you're not in that place where, and then you end up feeling rubbish about yourself for allowing it, because it's a form of abuse, really. It's an emotional abuse. You say you don't want to be with that person, but they're good enough for you to keep coming back and telling them what you did the night before and who you had a fight with. Why are you telling them all of this? So it's things like that that I'm helping women with, and also women that want to revamp themselves, reinvent themselves. There's a woman, she wants to change her hair. She's in the mood to change her hair to bright red because she feels bright red signifies confidence. I'm telling her to go for it, because why not? If that's going to help her to come into the version of herself that she envisions for herself, absolutely. She can always change her hair in 6 months' time, 3 months' time, if she feels, okay, I've done the red hair thing now. I'm feeling good about myself. I've gotten some compliments and I'm feeling more confident. I can go and do this now. It's small things like that we start with. And then we work our way up to women who are at the stage now where they've done the work on themselves and it's to elevate to the next stage, whether it's helping her to lose weight, helping her to reprogram her mind every day. I've got a couple of women that will WhatsApp me and I kind of talk them through, what's your plan for today? What's your goal for today? Starting small. How are you going to elevate your mind today? And then I will help her, send her affirmations. Listen to this while you're on the train to work. Listen to this during your lunch break. Yeah, when you're going to bed at night, listen to this positive affirmation, because she's struggling with colleagues at work and things like that. So it's just trying, and she hasn't got a choice but to stay in that job. So it's just basically trying to help them find ways to manage some of the struggles.
Just for us to wrap up. So
Yeah.
how would people get into your coaching program? How would people getting to speak with you, getting a session with you, getting to you helping them? How would it work for you?
Yeah. I mean, they can contact me. There's a link in my bio for my Standstore link. It's got a consultation application in there where they answer a few questions so that I know, if we're a right fit, and they can contact me that way. There's a calendar where they can book in a 15-minute or half an hour chat so that I can figure out how I can help them. If they're not ready for a paid consultation, I do have some free tools that they can use to start. So there are ways to get, to start free and paid. It just depends on the levels that the woman is at.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Amma. I hope somebody who is listening to you today
Yeah.
would take that leap to heal. It's very important to heal
Yeah.
and move on and become the real person you're meant to be. And that is the whole essence, living
That's
out
right.
your life in full. And there's no
Absolutely.
way better to do it than someone who has been through that journey, like you, to help them go through their own journey as well.
Yeah.
So just your last word on this episode. And I want to say thank you for coming back again for this second part of this discussion with you. So just your last word on this episode to someone out there who is also listening to you. What would your last word be for that person?
Believe in you, invest in you, because nobody else can invest in you like you can.
Thank you so much, Amma. That's amazing. And I want to say thank you so much for taking your time to be on this podcast. And we look forward
For
to
having
seeing
me.
all the things you're set to do, the new version of you, the Pro Max of you. We look forward to having all of them. And to
Yeah.
everyone who has listened to Amma today and you want to connect with Amma, her link will be on the description. You just go there and you get in
Yeah.
touch with Amma. Thank you so much once more, Amma,
TikTok
for
or
being with us.
Instagram, it's there.
All
Thank you
right.
so
I'll
much
see
for
you
having
some other
me.
time. All
Take care.
right.
Appreciate you.
All
Take
right.
care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.